I had a video out that no one watched about the kirk, what you call it? I don't know, quirk. Well, it basically was that from actually just looking at the shirt and when his head started moving, this slowed down video that you can find here and there on YouTube, you can see that when the shirt started moving up, the bullet hole wasn't there. Well, basically, like I was saying, you could see everything about who shot what from where, or at least what kind of gun it was shot from where, and in what order, and this and that. And the front hole is an illusion, and that everyone's lying, needless to say, and all that stuff. I did that, the whole thing. I said who probably did it and why. Somewhere in there at the beginning of the video, I said it probably some kind of co-op between Israel and USA. And then I realized if you say anything bad about Israel, I heard, if you say anything bad about Israel, it means you're saying something bad about the USA and that you are therefore a terrorist. Some sort of a new law. So, I don't hate Israel, I meant Zionigarchs. There's Zionist oligarchs, ZGs. I don't hate them either, I just think they're naive. I don't hate US, I think they're naive like every country with handling every money has ever been throughout history. So, nothing wrong with any of these people, in my opinion, they're just naive. As are all of we. For example, I can't even speak. So I have to redo this video. I'll do it real quick because I've learned. Well, I've learned for one thing. My friend is really good looking. He has a video that gets no views. I have like an overabundance of wisdom, and I always get no views either. So neither wisdom nor good looks get you views. It's some sort of a charm or a cool personality that gets views. So no one watched my video, short story short. I guess I'm glad because if we got popular, they probably would have called me a terrorist because I insulted Israel at the beginning, and then I insulted and therefore insulted US, and therefore I'm a terrorist. Quote unquote. It's a new law including Israel. I don't put down Jewish people because I don't think Zionism is Jewish. I don't put down Israel because a lot of them are Jewish and Christian, and some of them are, from the very place that they claim are terrorist, Palestine, a bunch of them, and everyone there is normal, just a naive Zionist government, and same with the U.S., a naive government, same with everyone, everywhere throughout history. So, never meant to say anything about Israel. That's just a figure of speech, rough, what do you call it? A lousy figure of speech, inaccurate. I meant Zionists, whom I think is who probably killed CharlE, and the reason why, and then I'll start in with both explanations. One is the Zionists, whoever killed CharlE, and why and how, and then I'll get into how it might be. It's already starting a prelude for a civil war, so that the bad things happen, and then the government has an excuse to steal everyone's guns before they roll out the slAvLcoin scam, which is a scam that I'll discuss after I really quick talk about that involves 340 million murders instead of one. So I'll talk about this one murder. I don't know why I combined them, but just because it's a popular one, and that might be a way they can have a civil war between. They can maybe fool Kansas and Erica into it or whoever, and then all of a sudden there's a civil war. Long bucks. It's good. Just gotta get this video done. I have 7 minutes. So they can do that. They can pull everyone into a civil war, and then they have say, well, if this civil war's going on, we have to help everyone and steal everyone, steal in pound. They really steal everyone's guns. And then they'd say, oh, by the way, we're running out slAvLcoin, and there's not a damn thing you can all do about it because you don't have guns. But anyways, as I was just saying, let me breeze through this thing first. This one murder as opposed to 340 million. Basically, CharlE, from what I hear on the internet, became a real Christian as opposed to a Zionist Christian. And so he's kind of disrespecting the Zionist ego with that, the Zionist gang, who probably helped put him in his place with all their power. And I also hear he had information about Top says Team.USA's, some things they did illegally. So it's just like leaving a gang. When you leave a gang, the gang often offs you. Not an off word pun, I just say that by accident, but it's true. I know people in gangs who go down killed for that reason, just trying to leave the gang. It's not easy to do. You have to be humble as the dust. You have to look like a complete loser when you leave the gang. There's no threatening this, no disrespect or anything. Otherwise the gang their ego gets bent and they try to kill you. It happens a lot. Big gang or small gang. I'm talking about gangs in LA in this case, but it's irrelevant. Not easy leaving a gang. So what was I babbling about? He decided to become a real Christian from what I hear, as opposed to a Zionist Christian, which is oriented by power and probably trying to organize the world for the greater good, but meanwhile them in power. That way, that little thing takes the claim of being Jewish or Christian or whatever section it's in. It's not Christianity. Christianity, you give your life to God, to Jesus, and you're not into power, you're into virtue before power. You're not into organizing the world because you don't think you're too smart, you leave that wisdom to God. It's totally different orientation, much more real than Zionism, in my opinion. So he quit Zionism. I was talking about college kids in the section of him standing as a free-spirited guy, and he probably said, screw it, I want to be a real Christian. So I'm becoming a Christian, I'm veering away from the Zionist gang, which is all true. And he said multiple times, he said, this all happened in the last few weeks before his assassination. He said he was a good chance he was going to get killed. Last day he made a speech, he made sure his speech had no pre-warning. He set up the whole thing in a day, but it didn't work because the Zionists were also the TPUSA security guards and everything. They knew everything that was going on. All the people that were pretending to be his friend were informing them. They knew they were there, and they did it. Now, as far as the actual murder, since people are yapping about that on the internet, my this quick, the phone buyers are much better than the Zionist Twitter. Wait, what's up, man? The way, I'm sorry, I was just trying to be out, but the way they did it is this. Firstly, if you look at the t-shirt, like I think I said at the beginning of this video, that's why I call it the kirk shirt conundrum. If you see when the shirt came up, while it's coming up, the first nanosecond, the head is already in motion, has been impacted by a bullet from the back of the side before there's a hole in his neck. His head's already been impacted before there's a hole in his neck. Obviously not an entry wound because he's moving before that bullet hole showed up. Not an exit wound because, for one thing, I can't remember the reason it's not an exit wound, but one thing, it all happened while the t-shirt was covering the spot where the hole is to be. And it wouldn't have gone through, it didn't go through the shirt, didn't put a hole in the shirt when it came out in the videos, it didn't put even a dent in the shirt as if it barely came out, or a hole in the shirt when it came out. Then the shirt came out and the hole was there. So highly unlikely an exit wound for various reasons like that. Definitely not an entry wound, extremely unlikely an exit wound. And the prevailing theory is, as far as the air pellets in the shirt, I can't remember why, but the shirt started pulling up with air as if there was an air pellet gun before his head moved, before the shirt started blowing up in fluffy motions too, or rising up. So the idea is when you get hit in the side of the back of the head, bullets make skin pop up really quickly and for a short amount of time, but very quickly and powerfully, like half the speed of a bullet. Shirt and neck and skin and everything expands, and trapezius muscles and everything, just like that. And it pulls on the chain, it pulls on the part of the chain that's in the back of the neck backwards, pulls the chain with the emblem up at half the speed of a bullet, and that puts a hole in his throat. Probably not the carotid artery or the inner jugular, probably just a really bad cut, and at the same time, he's high blood pressure because of that puffy blood thing that I described. That's why he bled a really lot, but for a very short time, then he wasn't bleeding. And that's probably what happened for the front hole. The back hole, they probably, the right bullet is leaves a very small mark. It has very little bleeding if it's by the hair in the head and everything, and it's the right kind of bullet that seals up the hole. Extremely small amount of bleeding. Some people have looked at the film in the back of the head, they don't see any bleeding. Could have been just a few drops. And the exit hole I already described. So that would be a hole in the back or side of the head. Probably, I was guessing from one of the security guards, which are probably Zionists, just a guess, and probably a gun hidden in a camera. There was a video about a camera to the side. I'm surprised no one's demanding to look at that camera. But regardless, that's probably what it was. And then it went in the head, it hit the spine, it hit the cerebral vertebra that affect breathing, heart rate, this, that, and the other. And then, of course, the Zionist guards had to put them in their limo instead of the ER to put or to use the thing and take it to the hospital, because they had to maybe seal up the hole in the back of his neck on the way there, and they had to go where they knew the corners of the corner would not look too hard for a hole. So that's all just to deter the blame. Just a technique for that. And once there was a hole in the front of his neck, that they probably summoned the, what's that called, Patsy? Dude with the gay guy with the rifle and say you were on this roof of this hotel. That's all just to deter the blame. And it's all because he left the gang. That's why they did that. I don't know why I'm talking about that. It's a sad thing. Good thing he was free before he died. It's a much better story than some. It's a pretty quick way to die, I would guess. I'm not saying it's great, but it's way better than a lot of horror stories I've heard about how people die here and there. So in any event, that's probably how he went, and he was free anyway. When you have enough faith in God, your fear is gone, and fear is the only suffering. It's not pain, it's not suffocating, it's not your heart stopping. When you have enough faith, depending on how much faith you have, that's how little fear you have, and fear is the only suffering, or the only darkness, as it is quote unquote said. The illusion of darkness is fear. So however much faith you have in God, that's how strongly in heaven you already are at that point, even in life. Faith is heaven, and perhaps more so when you pass on, but regardless, if you have enough faith, you're in heaven in the present moment, in any good religion. Name it. Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, name it. Your faith is that strong, you have no fear. Once you have no fear, you're already in heaven. And you perceive everything as God in a diluted form. Every little salamander, lizard walking by, person, human, tiger, God, whatever. So he was free. I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying good thing he was free before it happened. That's what happened to CharlE. It's not as important as the rest of this video. Not as important as the rest of this video. The rest of the video I'll say real quick because I'm out of time. It may be a prelude, or maybe used as a prelude, because it comes up that way, as to create a civil war to have a reason to steal everyone's guns before they roll out slAvLcoin, which is, in my opinion, the greatest terrorist crime in U.S. history, perhaps the world history. I got some video that makes it worse. My reason is up to over 1 billion felonies and violating most of the tenets of the Constitution. Then there's another video how they're going to try to steal it from, like, try to con other countries with it. I don't know what country is going to trust the U.S. these days. But if they manage to do that, that's another half of 10 billion. That's like 5 billion felonies instead of 1. But I don't think it's going to work very well, if I took a guess. It is this. Not the coffee. It is this. They fool everyone into signing permission so that their money can be switched to slAvLcoin if there's an emergency or disaster. On the bank statements, everyone's already, so I've heard, everyone's already been tricked into signing, unbeknownstly signing it. That's already a robbery by deception. And then they just have to create an emergency disaster, which isn't too hard for the government to do when the timing is right. And then they suddenly say, we're going to save the day and switch all your money to slAvLcoin. You win. You're welcome. So what slAvLcoin is exactly that. They have control of the coin, just like the CBDCs, only it's under the Republican technocrats instead of the Democrats. Democrats are going to roll out CBDCs. About 5 states disputed it, and that stopped it. The next one is the technocrat billionaire bonehead one. They're going to try to do, they want to be in control just like everyone other naive person in the world, because they think they have a better plan in the case of the engineers. Or whatever. Everyone thinks they're smart and all that stuff. So that thing, once they steal everyone's money, because then they're in control of it, we're not, it means it's really their money. They can do whatever they want. They can establish a social programming through AI, which I call artificial incompetence, based on the parameters designed by the naive humans to decide who to hire and tell the people they hire as programmers how to program it. Their parameters will decide which person is deserving of money, and the government or the Trump billionaires or whoever it is at the time will decide who has how much money, when and where they can spend it, and on what conditions and what behavior. They're in control of it. It's their money. We're not. They stole it. They stole 340 million people's money. Then it's being emotionally wounded by being fooled into being a slave and signing permission for it, which is another assault, emotional assault, and another felony, 340 million more. And then since it's so annoying that everyone got conned into being a slave, and they're now slaves, they will be ruining the economy with the bad vibes that will shorten everyone's life. An average, in my guess, I'll make it quick, of 15 years on average. Might be 5 years, might be 25 years. But they will shorten everyone's life, and when you shorten someone's life, you're murdering them. If you think about it, when you're murdering someone, they're going to die anyway, all you're doing is shortening their life. If you shorten someone's life, it's a murder, and they will be murdering 340 million people, a third 340 million felonies, total over 1 billion felonies just in the U.S., and like I said, violating most of the Constitution. Yeah. Hard to talk so quick, but I gotta wrap this video up. Somewhere in my videos, a way that they're gonna make them try to con the other countries with it. And I heard Trump was gonna try to use it to write off the lower. He's trying to make the dollar lower, get devalued. I say that's what I heard, and as an excuse to roll out the slAvLcoin or to write off the national debt. 38 trillion, maybe 39 by the time they get rolling with this stuff. But that's the slAvLcoin scam, and why they might have done this thing, how they're going to take advantage of the thing with Kirk and maybe start a civil war so they have the excuse to steal. Everyone's guns before they roll out the slAvLcoin, because right now no one knows what it is. And there is a kind of gold that they're turning into money. It's called brix or something like that. Just found out about it. The gold money. That's it. I know this video sucked. I apologize. Audio. Should I put my ugly face on here? I used to be, actually I was always kind of ugly. But now I'm 55. Been homeless for 30 years. Quasi, semi-homeless. Yeah, I'm ugly. That's why I don't put my face on these things. They're not really groomed or anything. They're great. Okay, that's the video.